Hello, my name is Lisa Bush, and I'm with Central Square Technologies, and I'd like to welcome you to the Affordable Integrated Municipal Software webinar. Right now, everybody should be looking at my desktop. I've got everybody on mute, so if you do have questions, you can take yourself off mute. You can also chat with me, and then I'll stay on at the very end as well to answer questions. So once again, I'd like to welcome you, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, let's take a look at what we're going to cover today. At Central Square, we've got over 30 different integrated products. You can pick and choose the ones that you want to automate so you don't have to do everything. There's no workaround, so if you want to automate the entire municipality, we've got software for all the different departments. We even give you the ability to post in detail. So what I mean by that is when you're in the accounting system, you can actually see customers that were billed, employees that were paid, all that detail, in addition to the journal in the general ledger. So we'll look at some examples. We're going to spend the first part of the presentation talking about our true fund accounting solution. Just so you know, it's designed specifically for local government. We're able to track all of your funds in one integrated database. You're going to get line item budgeting. At any point, you're going to know what funds are available, so we'll spend time looking at that. We're going to also spend time looking at our utility billing solution. This allows you to bill unlimited metered and non-metered charges, non-recurring. It is a true cycle billing so that if you've got customers that move in or move out mid-cycle, we can prorate those. So you're able to set customers up, final them on your convenience. So we're going to also look at things such as emailing your customers, payments on the website, and talk about some of the different satellite or handheld devices that we work with. It's a very long list. We're going to also take a look at some of the benefits of having that one database of names and addresses. As an example, somebody can come into the counter, and if they've got one check, I can bring in all the balances. Or if you get a call from one of your constituents, you're able to go to one screen and see information on their utilities, their building permit, their tax bill, their code violation, depending on which products you have. We have the exact same view by property. So you can look up a certain parcel and see who owns it, what permits are there, what code violations or utility accounts. So once again, the benefits of having that one integrated database. At the very end, we're going to talk about our new report designer. This tool allows you to drag and drop fields from your database to create any type of report or any type of file. So it really is that answer to, hey, I want a report that has A, B, and C. We give you access to all the data fields. So that kind of sets the stage for the next hour. I wanted to go ahead and pass on my contact information. So if you do have questions after the presentation, feel free to email me or call me if you do have questions. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to bring up the database. And this is the screen that you're going to see when you log on to our software. As I mentioned earlier, we've got over 30 different products. So we have a full financial suite. We do your utility billing. We can do things like building permits, code enforcement, tax billing, cemetery management, and we can also do public safety and municipal courts. So over 30 modules, you pick just the ones you need. We're going to start with the financials. Even within this area, you can pick and choose which products do you need for your organization. As an example, maybe you've decided, hey, I'm going to outsource payroll. I don't need that piece. You don't have to license it. So even within this area, you can pick and choose the components that you need. Now, the look and feel of everything we're going to look at today is the same. So you're going to be able to know that how we do things in the accounting is the same way in the billing software. So it's not like different programmers do things different ways. So it's very consistent. Our menus are set up so that things you do daily, they're under the daily tab. Things that you might do once a month, once a year, those are going to be under periodic. So when we get into billing, that would be under periodic. We're going to look at reports. We keep unlimited history. You're going to be able to run a report for any date. You don't have to purge out that history. So if you've been using it 10 years, you can go back and print a balance sheet from 10 years ago. Same thing with your inquiries. We're going to take a look at all the different inquiries. We can do partial searches, but we're going to also drill down and look at detail. Now, the very last thing that every product has is something called tables. This is where, as an example, in the general ledger, you're going to set up your chart of accounts. You're going to see the same thing in utility billing. What are your rates? What are your services? So once you set your tables up, you're not going to spend any time there. So you'll spend most of your time under daily and periodic. So with that, let's take a look at the general ledger. As I mentioned, it's the heart of the system. Everything can, post into the general ledger. You can post in detail. You can have it automatically post. It's all in how you want your financial system to work. You're going to also see this lookup box. All of the fields are searchable. So if you know a little bit of information, you're going to be able to search. Now, this is the screen that you would go to if you wanted to do things like beginning balances or any adjusting entries or any time where you just need to debit and credit. Keep in mind, everything coming over from billing and courts and taxes, we're going to create those entries for you. Now, if you look at the toolbar, it is like a Microsoft product. So it's going to be easy for your staff to sit down and use the software because they're used to using Word and Excel. Now, if you do have a question, you can actually hit the telephone, and within the software, you can electronically submit a call. You don't have to stop what you're doing. You can electronically do that, and you can let us know, do you prefer a phone call or an email, and it's that easy to get help. Now, a couple of key things I want to point out. One is this is a date-driven system. So as an example, today's June 25th, 2019. If I need to post this journal back to January, I've got the ability to do that. Now, keep in mind, you can lock down January where you can't do that. So you decide, that you can post to those previous periods. We also give you the ability to open your year and close your year as many times as you need to. So if your year ends, let's say June 30th, and you want to go ahead and close that year July 5th, you can do it, even though your auditors won't be on site for 8 weeks, because I can reopen that previous year. So open and close is easy to do. Another key thing, we're going to make sure debits and credits equal, even if you're crossing funds. And here's another option we have. Some of our municipalities need to track grants or projects that might span multiple years, or maybe it's just a certain point in time, and you don't want to have to set up, a special account in your chart of accounts. You can define a project. The project can have different tasks, different categories. So the projects work with our journals, our purchase orders. When you pay your bills, you can tag it to a project, even your payroll time. So that's one of those, some need it, some don't, but it's integrated if you do. I also want to point out this feature called recurring. You're going to see that button on our purchase orders and our payables. You can set up a template of recurring journal entries. What do you want to call it? What accounts? Do you know the dollar amounts? So that you can just select and post or maybe tweak a little bit. So you'll see that feature in the other areas as well. Now, with our solution, if you want to look at things before you post or after you post, you can see those journals. Here's an example where I'm going to look at something that maybe came over from utility billing. Now, I could look at a certain period or a date range, but I'm going to look at how those journals coming over from billing got posted into the general ledger. So once again, I can review those before I post. I can even look at them after I've posted. Now, all of our reports, you have the ability to the screen. I can email, I can go to Word or Excel, or even create a PDF. So that's standard with all the reports that you're going to see today. So once again, very similar to a Microsoft product. Now, jumping over to periodic, we all know how important the budget is to municipalities. We have a couple of different ways you can get your budgets into the system. One is a lot of our customers like to use Excel. We have a tool called Budget Excellence. And what it allows you to do is to export out history to create your new budget. And I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Now I can do, different dates. I can do different types of accounts. I'm going to go ahead and say, nope, we're going to create the complete budget, dump everything in Excel for me. And what's nice is in just a second, we're going to have the option to go right to Excel and look at that workbook, or we could go back to the accounting system. So let's go to Excel. And on my toolbar, it's going to drop this little budget report right here. And I've got all of my accounts. I've got the types for all of my funds. What was the budget? What was the year-to-date actual? I've got a breakdown by month. And if I wanted to, I could do this for multiple years. But I'm in Excel so that I can actually create my budget in Excel with historical information. But when I'm finished, I'm just going to import what the council approved. I'm not rekeying it into the accounting system. I'm just going to import, whatever that final column is. So, once you complete that process, you simply upload, and we're going to bring it in, and then we're going to track it. And we're going to track it a couple of different ways. One is, when you pay your bills, do you want a warning if you're over your budget? Obviously, on your financial statements, how much budget availability, when you do inquiries. So once it's in, we're tracking it. Now, if you don't want to use Excel, we have different things where you can do across the board changes or just, get that budget keyed in. We'll track it the exact same way. We've got budget worksheets. Now, some of our municipalities, they have to do budget revisions. They have to keep track of changes to their budget in the middle of the year. If that's your case, we have an easy way to do it. We keep track of what you changed and why you changed it. When you run your financial statements, I can run it for the original budget or the revised. I even have a historical report that I can run for a range of years by account number and see, okay, what was the budget? Show me the actual, and then compare it to, the budget, the actual, so that you can get that comparison and show me all the changes. So you're able to track those to see if there's any trends. Now, as I mentioned, we have a wizard to close the year. I can always reopen it. Our customers love this feature. I make it easy to reverse something. Now, if you know the transaction number, just type it in. If you don't, okay, right click. Well, what do you know? I'm going to say I want to reverse something, and maybe it happened in payroll, and that's all I know. Now, granted, I probably should know when and how much to shorten the list, but if that's all I know, I can search from there. If this is the transaction that you want to reverse, you simply hit post. The system makes the offsetting entry. Complete audit trail, you're not having to back that out. So if you do make a mistake, it is easy to reverse, but there's an audit trail. Now, let's look at some of the reports. These all come standard, so you're going to have reports with all your products. We've got several financial statements to help you manage your municipality. Here's one for those municipalities in the audience that need to track purchase orders or encumbrances. I've got this expenditure report, and if I wanted to pull it out just for one fund, I could, or maybe for a certain department, but I'm able to slice it out. And on this report, I can see not only what did I budget, but are there any outstanding purchase orders? So if you need that capability, we have it. You certainly don't have to use purchase orders, but if you do, you're going to get a better feel for what funds are available. Now, here's a report that everybody would run for their council meeting. It's our statement of revenues and expenditures. Once again, I can show that original or revised budget. Do I want to have a previous year comparison? I can see that. Do I like to see my budget by percentage or dollar amount? So I can decide, and run the report that way. As I mentioned, I can run it for any year. I can go back 10 years ago. I can also slice out this report based on how you've defined your chart of accounts. So if I want it just for the water fund, I can pull just that out, or the general fund, or I want it for all funds, it'll subtotal by fund, or maybe a certain department. So I'm going to go ahead and run this for the general fund. And I'm going to say I want a subtotal by department. So I could have up to 3 different subtotals, but this will show you for your revenues and expenditure how you're doing with your budget. And like I said, if I want a previous year comparison, I could have had that as well. So totally up to you, but you just run these for your board meetings, and you can also email them or go to Word or Excel. Now, we also have a balance sheet that you can do for an individual fund, a range of funds. So, you've got that capability. You've got this historic budget report that you could run for, maybe 5 years and see, okay, what did I budget? Show me the changes, compare it to the actual. So once again, I can see, are there any trends? We're always having to change this one account. So like I said, for most of our customers, these financial statements get them exactly what they need. However, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the report designer at the very end. We also have a tool called Report Excellence, and that's geared for our customers that like to use Excel. Maybe there's a report that you're doing in Excel and you're having to redo it each month. We have a direct link from your accounting software to Excel, or you may want to create a file that you send to your auditor. I call this my audit file. Maybe they're coming on site, and before they show up, I want to send them literally everything that happened last year. I can do that. I can do fiscal periods, or maybe they want to see the last 2 years. But I can also pull out detailed transactions for any point in time. What were the detailed transactions this one day 10 years ago? I'm going to go ahead and just do it for the year, and I'm on a calendar year, so we'll go ahead and pull this out. And I can even be selective on what types of accounts. Maybe I only want to see revenues or expenditures. I'm going to see everything. I could also strip it out, maybe just the police department, the water fund, the sewer fund. Once again, I'm going to grab it all as well. So I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to bring up that file. And in just a second, here is a detailed Excel file of all the details, like every account, what type, what's the description. I've got the transaction number. I've got the type. Where did it come from? Courts, tax, utility. So you're going to really know everything that's hitting and all that detail. Point in time, I've got document numbers. So if it is a invoice or a receipt number, PO, I've got debits and credits, and I even have projects on the far right-hand side. So that easy to get detailed information exported out of your accounting system. So let's go back to the general ledger, and we'll take a look at some inquiries. As I mentioned, you're able to search based on list information. Maybe I want to search something, and the only thing I know is the dollar amount. I can search. Now, I might know where it came from or when it happened, but I'm going to say, nope, I'm looking for a needle in a haystack. Okay, here's my list. I'm going to grab this transaction. So here's an example where it started in accounts payable. I paid the copier lease, but I want to know more. So I can say, show me more, and I can see more information on the vendor, the invoice. I can see the status of the check. Notice this little paper clip. Because I attached that invoice when I paid it, I can see that. I'm not having to go to the filing cabinet. So everything is here. Most of our products give you the ability to attach documents. So that's really easy to do. Now, let's take a look at another inquiry that I think you're going to like. Here's an example where, I could look at any year, any account. Okay, I'm going to say, I know it's a revenue, and I know it's in Fund 2. Maybe that's all I know. I can search. I may know part of the description. So I'm going to grab where I've done my utility billing. So think of this as that account. There's a couple of things you can do here. One is I can print in detail everything that went in and out of this account this year. So these were all the billings that we've done over on the billing side, the unique number, the dates, and the amounts. I could go back and look at any year. Okay, well, that's great, but I need to know more. I'm going to drill down to February and see, well, what happened in February? Here's the one billing. Okay, that's great. If I drill down again, here's the journal. I did a billing over on the utility side. The journal's going to tell me, okay, how much is water and sewer and trash. So that's great. A lot of systems will do this. We take it a step further. So if you want to know, well, what customers make up that journal, show me more. Here are the customers that were billed in the billing, and I can see it in the accounting. So I'm not having to go in between different systems. They're so integrated, I can see it right here. So you're going to see a lot of this when I say, post in detail. This is detail. Let's look at another example. Here's one that I like because, especially, I talk to customers all the time that are using QuickBooks or maybe an accounting system not really designed for municipalities. So think about how nice you could go to one screen and see all of your funds. Now, granted, I've only got two set up. You can have as many as you want. You can pick the one you want to learn more about. I'm going to say the general fund. Now, my next tier happens to be departments. So if I wanted to see expenditures, revenue, balances, I can do that. But I can drill down and see, let's look at detailed transactions, receipts at the counter, a payroll run. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So here's an example where it's a payroll run where we do the journal for you. When you do a municipal payroll, there's a lot of GL entries. We post that for you. But if you decide to post in detail, you can see the employees that make up that journal. Here's the summary. These are all the employees that were paid. Now, I can also take it one step further and actually look at the check stub. So I'm going all the way back to that check stub of that employee sitting in the GL. So once again, very tightly integrated so that you can see all that information. Now, as I mentioned, tables, that's where you set up your chart of accounts. That's where you do your recurring entries. That all happens there. Now, typically in this setting, I don't cover purchase orders, but I do want you to know if you need it, we have it. We can print purchase orders. We're going to give you, hey, before you create that budget, that purchase order, hey, if you're over your budget, we'll let you know. But it'll encumber the funds. Everything that you're keying in on the PO will flow to accounts payable. You're not having to key in the same information. So it is integrated. At any point, you can turn it on. Most of our products, we've got like 30, they're a one-time license fee of $3.95. So you could decide, 4 years down the road, I want to turn on POs. It's there, it's ready. Now, I definitely cover accounts payable because everybody has to pay bills. Once again, let's take a look at some of the features that we have in our accounts payable. Okay, here's the screen. If you were going to do a new invoice, you just type new and type in the information. Couple of key things here. One is you might have some vendors that are deducting it from your account, so you just want to record it but not do a paper check. We handle it. We're going to also let you set up on some vendors that you're paying electronically, their direct pay information. So it automatically will check their box if that's the case. Now, in this scenario, if they are getting paid electronically, they get an email automatically letting them know what invoice or invoices you just paid, and then they know it's in their account the next day. So we handle that. If you are trying to pay the same invoice to the same vendor, we stop you there. We know you've already paid it. Here's a feature customers really like, separate check. Even though I've entered in one invoice this month, I get a second one, but they say I've got to have a separate check. I can note separate, and when we do the check run, I'm not going to combine them. So, you don't have to do a special check run when they want a separate check. If this is a PO, you right-click, we bring in the accounting. So we're going to bring in all the accounts you're charging it off to, and you're just kind of checking to make sure, yep, the PO matches the invoice, or no, it doesn't. You can make adjustments. Now, the amount of the total amount of the invoices here, down below, you can literally charge it off to as many different accounts. You just have to completely distribute that $1,500. It can go to different accounts, different funds. I can send that vendor one check. So once again, if you're coming from a QuickBooks world, you're having to go into these different companies and enter that in and do multiple checks. The accounting is going to handle that for you so that you could, if you wanted to, run that through one AP and then let the accounting do the detail. Now, we have some that still need to have different physical checking accounts for their funds. That's okay. We handle that too. Now, if you do the attachment right here, it's like attaching an email. It's going to stay with it. Remember that invoice we looked up? You're no longer filing. You just attach it when you pay it, or maybe who approved it. Now, as I mentioned, we've got recurring, the phone bill, the internet bill. You can have recurring where it's by a percentage. You get the invoice, you just type in the amount, it does the math for you because that's how you set it up. So you'll want to set up as many recurring templates, and they're really easy to do. So far we've entered in the payable. We haven't paid it yet. Now, I could have said, give me a warning back there if I'm over my budget, or stop me. So you can know right then and there how you're doing with your budget. Most of our municipalities, they have some sort of an approval process. So they'll enter in their payables a little bit each day, and then they will have a meeting, maybe a board meeting, so that they can get this approved. Here's a perfect report for that. So I might want to sort it by fund because that's how the council likes to see it, and through maybe today's date. Okay, so now I've got a report that I can just print off and take to the council that it's separated by fund, who I'm paying, how much it is, what GL account, the description, and on the far right-hand side, I've got the budget availability. You're going to know right here if things are over your budget. So you run this for the council, there may be some changes. If there are, that's still okay because we can jump up here and we can make those changes. So let's take a look at maybe what a change might be. Maybe the council decided we're not paying that $15,000 one right now. It's still there. We're going to pay it the next time maybe. But I can uncheck it so we don't do a check for it now. Or maybe they're saying, I only want to pay $10,000. Let's hold back $3,150. We do the adjustment. The balance is sitting there, but we'll do the check for $10,000. So you can fine tune that list. So once you're good, you can come down here and you can just print your checks, or you might want to print a report to, hey, how much do I need in all my funds? But very easy to do. And then those vendors that are being paid electronically, they get the email, and you just take this file to the bank, then the bank moves the money around. All of these options like voiding checks, you might want to say, Lisa's the only one that can void checks, so you can lock it down at that level. You're going to notice in payables, tons of reports, unlimited history. You're going to have record of every check you've ever issued, and you can sort it a lot of different ways. I can even sort my check register by fund or department and see all the checks, out of the different funds. Definitely lots of inquiries. I'll show you one here that I like and show you how you can do partial searches. Maybe you're looking up a vendor and the only thing is this vendor starts with an A. I can search. Or different status of vendors. So once I do my search, I've got a list. Now, I could also say the word supply is at the end. I can do star supply. Or maybe I'm looking for vendor that has the word office somewhere in the name. I can do star office star. So these searches work in all of our products, so you can do partials at the beginning, at the end, or in the middle. So I'm going to grab this guy. And once I select this vendor, I can see every check I've ever issued. On the right-hand side, as I move up and down the list, I can see what invoice or invoices were paid with that check. I can see the accounting. I can see the status. Has it cleared the bank? And I can also see any attachments. So really easy to drill down and look at things. So once again, tightly integrated. Now, to me, the toughest part of your job is bank reconciliation. And what I want to show you is how easy it is to reconcile with our solution. And that's under our cash control product. It allows you to do a couple of key things. One is we're going to create your deposits. I'm going to the bank. I want to do a deposit. You could say bring it in from all areas, or maybe you're very specific. I want to pull everything from the cash register and do a deposit. So once again, you can be selective on that. Once you run that process, you're going to be able to see all the detail transactions for that deposit slip. You can pick the bank. I even have the ability, maybe you're a larger organization, I could do a certain cash drawer. I want to do Lisa's. She's doing her own bank deposit. I can select all, I can unselect, but once we come up with the final list, we're going to do two things. We're going to print a deposit slip so you can just attach it, take it to the bank, but we're going to also create a deposit transaction. So when I reconcile my bank statement, I can see those. Now, you might even have a situation where you've got a check, it needs to be a split deposit. So I can take that check and put it into two different accounts. So we support that functionality too. But once you've done that and you are ready to reconcile your bank statement, you're going to be able to come to one place and see everything for a certain bank. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up, and I'm going to be able to see deposits, disbursements, and you're going to also see journal entries. So if I've recorded bank fees or a wire transfer, literally everything that's on that bank statement is here in one place to reconcile your accounting software to that bank statement. We do have the ability to bring in a file from the bank so that, we're going to match up everything that matches, and then you're dealing with a shorter list. So once again, once you complete the process, you're going to have a nice report to show you what was cleared, what's still open, beginning and closing balances. So it's a nice report for your auditor. So to me, that simplifies that so that you don't have to go to two different places to reconcile. It's under one umbrella. You're going to also have some really nice reports here. I can reprint deposit slips. I can run a report for a date range and see, well, what deposits have cleared the bank? What's still open? I can even do a check register that combines payroll checks and payroll checks on one. And I have a bank statement as well. I do have this one nice inquiry that I can look up by bank and see all the deposits. So here are all the deposits. If I have a question on one, I can drill down and go right to that deposit and see the makeup of that deposit. So once again, to me, that simplifies that. Now, there's a couple of other things I'm going to show you on the financial side before we jump over to some of the other areas. And one is our cash receipts. Think of this as point of sale. You've got a lot of customers that are walking in to your municipality and they're wanting to pay for things. This allows you to receipt for everything, handle the money once, no more handwritten receipts. So let's take a look at it. So if somebody walked in, perfect example is I want to pay my utility bill. You would hit UB. Okay, what's your account number? They don't know it. So I right click. Okay, do you know your name? Tell me what you know. So I can search based on what they can tell me to find that customer's account. So I'm going to go ahead and say, this is it. If I say okay, it'll bring in the balance. Now, they may not want to pay the whole amount. I can make an adjustment. I'm going to say today they are, so I'm going to accept it. At the same time, though, maybe there's some miscellaneous things. Maybe they want to pay their, it's your list, maybe a permit. But these are your miscellaneous things so that we create the journal. You're not doing handwritten receipts, so I can accept it and do a running total. So I can keep adding on. I could pay my court citation, my neighbor's bill. I got it all right here. When I am ready to do payment, I can also do check and cash or multiple checks and cash on the same receipt. It will make change. So it is like a cash register. You handle the money once. We're going to send the money to the appropriate area to pay off those balances, and then you're done. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the webinar, think about how nice it would be if somebody walked in and said, I've got one check, what do I owe you? I do have the ability, if you start using some of our master directory products, that I can bring in all the balances. So if this guy's got multiple tax accounts, multiple utility accounts, and an invoice, I can pay it all or pick and choose. So you do have that capability to start having that one database of names and addresses so that you can take that one check and put it in the right place. So once again, you handle the money once. There are really good reports. If auditors want to know what happened one day 10 years ago, you can tell them. Or if they want to know, show me everything you receipted this fiscal year, you can show them. How do they want to see it subtotaled? I can do it by receipt number. I can do it by check, cash, credit card, monetary, or I can do it by utility payments, court payments, tax billing. So lots of ways to sort that report to get out the detail. But you'll have totals and subtotals so that you'll know how much is going to all the different areas for any point in time. Now you can even reprint a receipt. So once again, that's one way how customers can get money into the asyst products. We have a lot of customers that also, in addition to cash receipts, they want to do payments on their website. So let's take a quick look at that. Once again, this is getting money into your asyst database. So you can have a link on your website. Your customers can go there and they can sign up to get their bill emailed. They can have to do payments. In this scenario, I'm going to pretend like I am one of your customers and I just got a notification you've got a new utility bill. As soon as I clicked on the link, it takes me right here to your portal. It has your name, your logo, and I'm going to log on and I'm going to look at my bill and I'm going to pay my bill. So when I log in, I can see if I've got multiple accounts, I can see all those different utility accounts. I can pick one and I can see individual bills. So if I've been using this for 5 years, I can see all those bills. I can print it or I may just want to look at it. So here is essentially what you mailed them in the mail. If you've got customers that are signing up to get their bill drafted, those are perfect candidates to get it e-mailed because they're paying electronically, they get it electronic. Now you can also pay it right now. And if I pay it right now, we know the balance because the bill's sitting there. Now in this scenario, you keep 100% of the $65. You get all your money. It calculates a convenience fee. So that is 3% plus 35 cents. But they have to accept that. But all of these payments are integrated. You just hit post and we post it into the right product. Now you might have customers, they didn't sign up to get their bill emailed, but when they log in, they can pay their utility bill and other things. So you tell us what buttons you want to turn on. So if I want to pay my utility bill, the difference here is I've got to tell it the account number. We're going to make sure it matches. So we're not going to let you post a payment where it doesn't exist. They're going to type in how much they're going to pay. It still calculates. They still accept it. But all these payments, you simply just hit post and we bring them all in. You get your money the next business day. So that's another way you can get payments into the system. Now, one other thing I just want to briefly mention, I typically don't cover payroll in this setting. If it's something you want to set up a time to see, we can certainly do that. But I just want you to understand we do unlimited pay types, deductions, benefits. We do leave accrual. You can have employees that work in different departments and different funds. We're going to post all that. So, very flexible, tons of reports. So, if you're interested, we can set up a time to do that. Now, before I jump over to utilities, are there any questions on the financials? As I mentioned, you can unmute yourself. You can send me a little chat, but I will stay on at the end and answer any and all questions as well. Okay, well, if there are, I'll stop and we can answer those. But let's go ahead and take a look at utility billing. This is one of those products, if you want to add this, we have it. We support unlimited metered, non-metered, and non-recurring charges. And here's that same little lookup. What do you know? I can look up a customer if I know the first name, the last name, the address, even the meter ID, the property ID. So lots of ways to get to that customer. And I'll bring up Lucy. Okay, so here's Lucy. Couple of key things I want to talk about. One is, as I mentioned, we're a true cycle billing. You can bill all your customers in the same group, but we handle those customers that move in or move out mid-cycle. You might have different groups. I can get reports and sort by cycle. You define your class of customers. I've only set 3 up. You can have as many codes. A lot of our reports you can filter by class. Status. When you go live, most of your customers are active, but I could have somebody being finalized, somebody being new, all at the same address, so I can track that. I also have a status of on and off in the same billing period. I have a status of inactive bill, or maybe they've skipped town, you're not billing them, but when they come back, you know they owe you money, so you can track those guys. We have a status of transfer. So if you've got a customer that goes from Main Street to Elm Street, I can move the balance and the deposit to the new address. So we move the money. You don't have to close them out and then reset the money up. And then here's the feature everybody likes, vacant. If you're still reading those vacant properties, I've got a status so that I can get your report. Show me the vacants that have consumption. You can be proactive. Now, moving down to the customer tab, who gets the bill? I'm assuming on this one it's the owner and the occupant. It's the same person. It may not be. So if I uncheck one of these, I can send the bill to the renter, I can track the owner, and I may want to send them a duplicate if they're delinquent or the bill. So they can get copies. Or you might have a situation where, you might want to send the bill to the owner, but you want to know who lives there. Once again, you can do copies. Or you've got a unique situation where somebody outside of town is responsible. You've got owners and occupants, and everybody can get copies. You decide what. So we've got that feature. It's perfect for if you got a lot of rental units. I've got primary and secondary addresses. Notice where it says paper bill. If your customers sign up to get their bill delivered electronically, it's going to tell the database, so it unchecks paper. It's going to check E and then store their email address. You're not having to manually do it. It's interactive. And at any point, you can run a report who signed up to get their bill emailed. We do drafts. So if you've got customers that they want you to automatically draft it out of their checking, we can do that. We create the payments. They still get a bill and it says don't draft. So those are easy to automate. Metered services. Most of our customers are water, sewer, trash. That's kind of a standard. However, I've got some that bill water, electric, and gas, 3 metered services. Or maybe a better example is I've got an account that's got 20 water meters at this one address. So we don't care how many metered records you have. So they can have different rates, meter IDs, multipliers. We're going to keep track of location. We also have unlimited non-metered. It might be sewer based on water or flat garbage, or I even have the ability to bill a charge over time until it's paid off. We keep track of that. You can have unlimited, what I call non-metered, turn-ons, turn-offs, bad checks. You're never going to have to use other. Everything is accounted for. We tell the GL. You can have different deposits. You might have 2 different deposits. We're going to keep track of who has a deposit, what deposits have been refunded, what's still on the book. So all those questions your auditors have, you can run reports for that. We do have a tab for what we call user definable fields. You've got 15 here that can be anything you want. These are unlimited text, so you can really type in detailed information. And keep in mind with our report designer, I can pick and choose those fields to do a custom report. So you've got that. We do something with actions. An action is something that happens, like maybe they gave you a bad check. We'll create an action, so then maybe you can have a warning when they walk in, no more checks. Or when they're disconnected or you're on your extension list. You can also set up an action to be any event where you give it a code, you can date it, you do descriptions as well. Okay, I have a question. The question is, does Central Square work with Census water meter? Yes, I have a very long list of units that we work with, and Census is one of those. And I'll show you the list. So we can do that. But like I said, you can create those. We can also have unlimited attachments. Maybe they damaged a meter, you took a picture of it, or they sent you a letter, or maybe an application. So just like you saw before. Now, let's say you've got this customer on the phone and there's a question. I can go right to their inquiry without even leaving this screen, or I can get to it another way. But I'm able to see things like, what do they owe you? We're going to age it. I'm going to be able to look at the billing history. So I can see every bill I've sent out, a breakdown for the different charges. I can also pick any bill and reprint any bill, and it says reprint. So it's easy to reprint those bills. My guess is you're going to get really specific questions, like, why is my water so high? So you can go to detailed transactions and maybe look at just water. When did I bill water? What are the dates? What are the amounts? What was the balance? What was the reading? Was it an actual or an estimate? And what's the consumption? So once again, for those very specific questions, you can get the answer. Or maybe there's a question on a payment and they want to know, well, how did you apply this $100 payment? You've got the detail. You can also print off their history. You could do it forever, which is going to pick up payments, adjustments, readings, all that, or maybe a date range. Now, we haven't talked about this, but we can do service orders or work orders. I can automatically do it based on status. I've got a new customer, go get the reading. I've got a final or a transfer. Those are automatic. I know that. But there could be other ones that you can, a customer calls in, but when you have them on the phone, you can drill down and see, well, who called? What did they tell you? What did you do? So the whole life cycle of that service order is right here on their screen. And one other thing I forgot to mention is we're going to ask you in the setup if you like Google Maps or Yahoo Maps. And if you hit the map, we're going to take you to that property. So we just pick up that address and launch Google Maps or Yahoo Maps. So easy to do. Now, let's go back to other things you might do on a daily basis. You might have a meter that goes bad. I can take it out in the middle of a cycle, and there's consumption on both. Now, there was a question about census. We have a lot of customers that get electronic readings, satellite. So they would have this interface and they would simply just pick the one they have, and it's a long list. With a question on census, right here it is. So we've got that interface for census. We've got other ones. I think census has a new FlexNet. We do that as well. But if that's the case, we're going to create that file so that you're not having to key in those readings. It's all electronic. Now we have some that, hey, they still key them in. We have a fast, easy way to do that. You're going to get a visual cue if somebody's out of range, or if you're missing somebody, I've got reports. So both schools we handle, or maybe you've got one route that you're keying in, the rest are, electronic. So lots of ways to do that. Now, payments, we've talked a lot of different ways to get payments into the different software. At the counter, you can draft payments. We talked about payments on the website. You're still probably going to get a lot of checks in the mail. And we do have a fast way to batch in those payments. So, I might have 50 checks here. If I know the account number, I type it in. I can even print a barcode and zap it, and it reads the account number. So notice what happens. It assumes it's a check, and that's the way I set it up. I can change it. If they're paying 100%, I just type in the check number. They don't always do it correctly. Maybe they think they're doing you a favor by paying you $144. There's a credit. We track it. Or they pay $140. That last service is short. It's going to automatically apply it based on how you've defined the payment priorities. Now, keep in mind, I can always say, I'm going to override that because they want to put it all on sewer. So we can do things like that too. I can even bring in a third-party file. I've got a handful of customers that have a kiosk, and we bring in a payment file. So lots of ways to get money in. If you ever have to reverse a payment, the check bounced, I type in the account number, I pick the payment, it puts the charge back out there, and I can hit them with that special fee and create an action, so no more checks. but we're going to tell the accounting system. Remember, they're in sync. The billing process. We have a unique feature that I really like, and we talked about it's a true cycle billing, but I can bill my normal group, I can do off cycle, but let's say I'm doing my normal group. And let's say I've got 1,000 customers in my group. Here it is Tuesday, but I've got a problem with two customers. I can actually pull out those two and fix them on Friday, but bill the 99%. So to me, that's a real stress reliever that I don't have to do everybody in that group. I can pull them in or take them out and come up with my group because I need to get those bills in the mail. Once I have my group, I've got edits. Am I missing readings? Is there anything out of whack? I calculate, I print the billing register, I print the bills. Now, if you've got customers that signed up to get their bill emailed, we know don't print those because we're going to email those automatically. We have a laser postcard. We have a laser statement. The statement has charts and graphs on it if you want that option. We have a lot of customers that have decided it's cheaper to have Central Square print the bills than it is for us. So if they add our e-print, as soon as you hit print, you can come here to the website and track the print job. We received it, we printed it, we mailed it. And 9 times out of 10, it's cheaper and it doesn't include your time. So we're able to pass on a better postage. You've outsourced it. You're doing things that are more important than, babysitting the print and doing that job. So we have that option if you're interested. But as soon as you post, that's when all the emails go out that they can view their bill immediately because they're posted. We do a nice job with delinquent processing. We can do a delinquent letter or a postcard. We can even do a disconnect process that we can put charges out there automatically. And remember, we create that action. So if you've got them on the phone, you know that you've got it, they're on the phone, you've got all that information. So you've got it right there. Tons of reports, unlimited history. I'm going to show you a couple because I want to get in and show you some other things. One is balances. I can get you a balance for any date. So not only today's date, we can go back in time and do that very easily. You've got unlimited history on consumptions and dollars built. I can also pull out a report just for a specific charge. How many times have I billed NSF fees in the last 10 years? So you'll find we have a ton of reports as well. Now, I've got 10 minutes, and I want to show you a couple key things. I want to get into the report designer, but I also want to show you, we talked about the benefits of having that one database of names and addresses. So as you start adding things like utilities and tax and permits and licenses, think about how nice it would be if you get a call from somebody and you come here to this screen, the only thing they know is their name, and on one screen, you can see everything about that person. So all the involvements. I can see the individual tax bills that I've sent it out. I can see, do they have a cemetery plot, their utility, an invoice, maybe a code violation. And once you click on any one of these, we take you to that inquiry and that product. Or are there permits or licenses? So we give you that one screen of all the involvements for that person. We have another view. We have a lot of customers that actually have us bring in data from the county. So you start with a database of all the properties. Who owns it? What's the valuation? But you also know other things like, what utility account is at that property? Who owns it? The legal description, information on the structure. This all comes in from the county, and we can populate this. But most importantly, who's the owner on record so we know who to send the letter to. So once again, as you start adding other things, you turn them on, and you're able to pull all that information together. Now, I'm going to click on the report designer. Let's see. I already had it up, so let me click on this, and we'll take a look at where you can do custom reports. So this is a tool that currently works with the full financial suite, the billing suite, and tax billing. Each employee can have their own dashboard of reports. We do deliver it with reports that you modify, but primarily you're going to use this tool to do custom reports. Couple features. One is I can find things. I've got a long list and I want to find all the reports that have vendor. Here it is. What I want to do, you can have favorites. They go to the top of the list. I'm going to show you a couple of reports that we've used this tool to create so you can see how complex they can be. One is a report that has drill down in the report. We've looked at a lot of drill down on my screens, but you can create reports that have drill down information. So here's a report that we created on vendor information. You can do filters. But when you see this little logo here, you can say, what makes up this number? So, so you can push behind that. So if I push, here's the journal that created that. So think about on a report for the council, what makes up that balance, so you can drill down and see that. You can create any type of file from all the reports that you do. You also have the ability to even search for words in your reports. You can do different graphics and logos. Let's take a look at a couple of other ones. Here's a report that we've used this tool to create a budget versus actual, and we did it graphically instead of with just numbers. So this will give you an idea on, if you want charts and graphs in your reports, where we created this report. I want to see budget versus actual. And so I can see that graphically for all of my different funds. Now, let's take a look at what I think you're going to use this for, is to create new ones. So I'm going to go add one. It's going to be a new report. I'm going to call this payroll webinar report, June 25th. So it does look to make sure you're not trying to create the same one. You can describe what's in this report. Okay, which product? So you pick the product. I'm going to say payroll. Okay, how do you want to look at the data for individual payroll runs or all the information on employees? I'm going to say employees. Now, keep in mind, if I don't have security, I can't access, so it looks at your security in the software. But what we essentially do is provide you with all the fields that are in payroll. So if you look over here on the right-hand side, all the fields on deductions and benefits and pay types and taxes and leave information, all those fields that we have on employees, we give you access. You can just drag and drop, and that could be a report. Now, so you have a blank screen. On the left-hand side, you can see all these different options. I might want to put my logo here. I might want to put the name of the report here. So I would, type in the name of the report. In the middle is kind of the meat of the report. So if I wanted to do just a real simple report, I could come here and say, I want the employee name. I want maybe their classification, and I want the department, and maybe I want to come up here and I want to know year-to-date gross pay. Done. That could be a report. Granted, it wouldn't be that pretty, but it could be a report. You probably want to do a label. That field is the name, so you could do labels. You could do, I want it to sort, maybe you can have sorts by department. But like I said, just by dragging and dropping, you could create reports. But you saw some of the pretty complex reports that we were able to do. You could do that as well. And you can run it. You can see what it looks like. You can save it. You can delete it. But if you do save it, it's on your dashboard. So with 3 minutes to spare, I am going to unmute everybody. So if there are any questions on anything that you've seen today, I want to go ahead and bring up my contact information. So that's here. Feel free to call me or email me if you want to learn more, if you want a quote, or maybe even to set up a time to look at payroll and some of these other products that we have. We can do that. We've been doing this for over 40 years. There's over 1,000 customers, and our focus is that small to medium municipality all over North America. Any questions? Well, I certainly thank you for your time today. And like I said, don't hesitate to call me if you do want to see more. But I do thank you so much.